Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Everyone would recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty
and justice
for all.
for all.
Whoa.
Next time we should all just take one word and just keep going around. So it's all done.
You're going to have to choreograph that though, Phil.
Yeah.
So the only thing I have this evening is that the Board Policy Committee met last evening. Phil, Lisa, myself, and Eileen. I think we've made it through all policies that were up for review this year. And I believe Eileen will be compiling that information. I believe, Eileen, that'll come out later for a vote for approval to the board.
Correct.
Okay. So those revisions are completed, and I guess there's just the audit committee that will be meeting. Is that later this week?
That's on Thursday.
Thursday.
Yep.
So that's all I had tonight. I think we're interested in getting into the budget details. So we can move to that next. I'm not sure if David or Mandy or yourself will be leading that discussion.
So we thought we would get Mandy, first dibs. So she's going to do her first official presentation to the board on the budget.
Okay.
So this is a monumental moment in my career, since this is the first time I'm going to be presenting Superintendent Feynman's proposed budget to our Board of Education. So on the 2021 draft budget, for general support, which includes salaries and then an increase in water and sewer, we have a proposed budget of $4,559,023. That's a change. It's up $214,274 from the current school year. Under instruction, which includes some salaries and supplies, the 2021 proposed budget is $16,305,426. That's up $393,202. For the transportation census, the proposed budget is $1,785,381. That came to a difference of $34,411. It's down from the previous year. And the reason that's down is because obviously for the remainder of the school year from March until June, we've had less fuel expense. So by the time we did some fuel expense savings and took everything into consideration, the net result was down the $34,000. For the benefits, this includes ERS, TRS, and health insurance. Notably, our health insurance has gone up about 8% next year from this year. So the 2021 proposed budget for benefits is $6,913,500, and that's an increase of $145,000. So the total for the draft budget on the expense side without building aid is $29,563,330. That's an increase from last year of $718,065, which is about a 2.49% increase. Our debt service from last year to this year is up $807,663. So this year, the 2021 debt service budget is $2,880,980. $400,000 of the debt service budget is the local share, and that's coming out of our reserve fund. and keeping with what was told to the taxpayers previously when they approved the building project, that is not going to be affecting their tax rate. The total 2021 draft budget is up $1,525,728. So the total budget that we are presenting for the expenditure side is $32,630,310. This includes an $86,000 transfer to special aid for pre-K and school lunch, and it also includes a $100,000 transfer to our capital outlay project. On the detail of the budget, the administrative component last year was 13.42% of the budget. This year it's 13.27% of the budget. The proposed administrative component is $4,333,743. That's up $157,858 from this year. The capital component last year was 16.64% of the budget. This year is 18.83%. So the 2021 proposed is $6,144,648. That's an increase of $968,689. The program component last year was 69.94% of the budget. This year it's 67.9% of the budget. The proposed 2021 program component is $22,154,919. That's up $399,181. So the component totals last year, 1920, was $31,104,582, and the proposed 2021 is $32,630,310. And that difference is $1,525,728. It's the same numbers from the previous page, but it includes the debt service numbers. For the contingency budget, the things that we would be looking to take away from there would be equipment, supplies, and staffing, and that would be in the amount of $336,703. And so the total contingency budget would be $32,293,607. The budget less the debt service transfers in 1920 was $28,845,265, and the proposed for 2021 is $29,563,330. That's up 2.49%. And with the contingent budget, the amount would be $29,226,627, which would be an increase of 1.32%. For the general fund revenues, you see that the state aid shows $22,226,296. That includes the $2,626,037 from building aid. It was $1,804,687 in the 1920 school year. So the $800,000 that's in that state revenue for the state aid, $800,000 of it is from building aid. And then there's also a decrease of about $360,000 compared to last year, which represents our pandemic adjustment. The proposed tax levy, this year our tax cap calculation said that we could go out at 2.6%. We did make some changes to our tax levy based on the current economic conditions, and with balancing the budget and having our revenue come in flat from last year to this year, and also including that pandemic increase, we were down $1.1 million. And so we had to make up the difference a little bit in the tax levy, and the responsible number that we came up with was 1.79%. So the tax levy would be $7,949,682. Your appropriated fund balance has been the same year over year, and we're recommending that it stay the same at $600,000. Your reserves, you'll notice that this amount is doubled compared to what we've done in previous years. And that was taking the guidance from the Board of Education and Superintendent Feynman, and also our personal beliefs that we needed to do what was best for students and try to maintain current programs. And so the reserves are now going to be $986,106. The pilots, you'll notice that there's an extra $84,000 in the pilots. That's because in previous years we've had a wind enrichment grant that teachers were able to use for extra things. But in order to keep the programs intact and trying to keep the educational needs of the kids as best we could by keeping our jobs at our current level, we just felt that it was necessary to remove that and keep the pilots in the revenues. So the pilots are now at $599,526. The BOCES refund is typically $100,000, and that's what we're expecting it to be again for the 2021 school year. The interest on earnings are $25,000, and other comes in at $143,700. For a revenue total equaling our appropriation total of $32,630,310. So we are presenting to you a balanced budget. Just to explain the use of those reserves in 2021, how we got to that $986,106. The debt service total is $442,205. That's that local share to building aid. To the building project, with zero impact to the taxpayer for the auditorium project. The TRS reserve is $25,000. The unemployment reserve, just because of the unknown adjustments from the governor's budget and the possible mid-year cuts, we're asking to move $75,000 out of there to cover those expenses. The liability reserve is used for deductibles on claims, $68,901. The insurance reserve is $100,000. These are things that may not be covered by insurance. The ERS reserve is $225,000, and the EBLAR, which are retirement benefits for TRS, is $50,000, and that's how we arrived at the transfers from reserves to be $986,106. On the true value tax rates, Wayland-Cohocton is going to be at $16.05 if the budget's adopted by the Board of Education as presented. We think that it's important to note that the average true value tax rate for school districts is $19.40. So the average district rate is 20.8% greater than that of Wayland-Cohocton. And also the highest district rate is 61.3% greater than Wayland-Cohocton. So again, staying very conservative and understanding the economic times for our stakeholders. For the 2021 enrollment projections, you will notice that our enrollment at the end of January of 2020, the total number of students was 1,264, and the projected is up by 2 students at 1,266. So our enrollment is staying pretty steady. On the staffing, you will see that in 1920, we have 8 administrators, 139 teachers, 47 aides and teaching assistants, and 14 counseling and psychologists. And you'll see that in 2021, we have question marks in those boxes And that's because we're waiting to see what the governor does. Right now, we are not adding any new positions, and our goal is to stay steady on our staffing. So with that, I present to you on behalf of Superintendent Feynman a balanced budget of $32,630,310. Any questions?
Mandy, those averages, where do you get those other districts from? Is that like a county thing, or what are those based on?
The tax rates?
Yes.
They're the true value tax rates, and they're based on the districts that are, well, one is a statewide and the other one is based on districts that are within our region.
Okay.
So I'm not, something I'm not understanding, I guess. Going back to the right page. No, you don't get to play right now. Where you're showing what we're using from reserves. When we have a reserve, do we pay bills out of the reserve or do we not pay bills out of the reserve? Actual bills for that. So like unemployment reserve, do we pay our unemployment out of the reserve or do we pay it out of the budget?
So unemployment is paid out of the unemployment reserve because that's what that money was set aside for and earmarked for. So when David came before you and asked for your approval to transfer funds into that reserve account, once it goes into that reserve account, the only reason it can come out is for the purpose it was put in there for. So that's specifically set up for unemployment.
Okay, so I guess that's my question. And if we're expecting the possibility of more having to pay out more unemployment, then why are we taking money out of the unemployment reserve?
The only way to pay it out of the general fund budget is to move it out of the reserve so that when the bills come in, they can be paid.
Okay, that was my question. Maybe I didn't.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. I apologize.
So we do pay the actual bills out of the regular budget. The reserve is if for like we're doing now where we think it's going to go up, so we pull some money out.
Absolutely, that is correct.
Okay. All right, that's what I wasn't understanding.
So therefore, how do we stand on reserves right now?
So our reserves are still really healthy. Everyone's done a good job with being fiscally responsible with the reserves. Let me look and see if I can find where the unemployment one is. The balance on the unemployment reserve on March 31st of 2020 is $813,975. So we will be moving
100,000.
moving
75,000.
75,000 out of that reserve.
Gotcha.
Were there any of the reserves that we should be concerned about based on the amount of money we pulled out, or we're still feeling really comfortable where they're at now?
We feel comfortable with where they're at right now, especially given the uncertainty of the times and not knowing what the governor actually is planning on doing to balance the state budget. There's this possibility that he could be taking 20% of our state aid if he has some mid-year cuts. And to be honest, that would be devastating because then the decisions that we don't want to make will be upon us and will have to be made.
So and that's the thing nobody wants to know, have you figured that out, what that means if it truly comes in at 20%? Have the administrators started looking at what that means to their building?
So yes, we have. We've started working on a plan that no one wants to implement. But yeah, we actually, everyone has worked on what that would look like. And our goal through all of this is going to be to continue to do what's best for children with the resources that we have to work with.
So just a couple points of of clarification. We don't have a specific plan that says if A happens, then this will then follow suit. We've started to have conversations about, where we would begin to look. Part of it is, we would have to spend some time really looking at our data. And as I've said, in like using Forecast 5 in the past, or Forecast 5, I've talked about that in the past. So we've begun conversations about what that would look like, but I don't want to mislead people to think that, this is what our plan is if the governor were to take 20%. The other important thing to remember is that it is, and I feel like we just have to state it for the record, relying on reserves reserves are not a sustainable source of revenue. And so if I've learned nothing else from this whole budget conversation, is that relying on reserves is not going to get you very far. And so we're trying to be conscious of that. And if again, the governor is saying that potentially next year could be an even more difficult budget for us. So if you continue to take $986,000 from reserves year after year after year, you're going to run out of money, because it's not a sustainable source of revenue. So again, just wanted to put that out there, that those are still important things to keep in mind.
So then that brings me to the other question. I know originally we were at the 2.6, and when everything got ugly, we had decided that we couldn't go out that far, but I don't ever remember going as low as 1.79. I thought we were a lot closer to 2, because again, if we give away those dollars this year and things are worse next year, you're not going to be able to go get it next year either. And I'm really concerned about that, especially where we are compared to the rest of the people in the BOCES. The amount of dollars to the individual taxpayer really isn't that much. It's the total sum that gets us our dollars. And I'm just really concerned about it. Once again, giving away money that we can never get back.
I would echo that, Phil. And I've done a lot of thinking on that. Certainly, part of the community impact is, you want to stay what's reasonable and what we think is sustainable in the community. I do think that if the money is there now and potentially not going to be there in the future, it may be something that we want to consider going out at a little higher amount and reducing some of the reserve. I don't know what that equates to in the dollars that we're pulling out of the reserves to do that. My only concern from a community standpoint is, it's not a lot of dollars, as you say, but there's a lot of individuals in our community affected by this COVID-19, and how is that going to translate? Number one, we're going to have a lot of, I'm assuming we're going to have a lot more voters just because of the nature of the way this vote is going to go. We've had obviously a lot of positive voters over the last several years, and it's certainly been favorable, but this could be one of those years that just because of the nature of things, it's not going to be something that we can get out there. I guess my other question, at the 2.6% that we were talking, is that the allowable limit, or does that require a supermajority on the vote?
No, that was your tax cap, so that's a simple majority. Just to help answer that question about how it would affect the reserves if we went to the 2.6, the difference between the 2.6 and the 1.79 is $55,000.
Okay. So I guess my other question is on the budget that's presented here. We had looked at several new programs and things that the board had approved last year. Are those programs in for next year, or have those been taken out of the plans for the students for next year? The cost of those programs.
So oh, go ahead, sorry.
That's okay. So we haven't eliminated anything that is currently in place right now, Rich. Everything is as is that we currently have this school year. So nothing has been eliminated to this point with the current budget that's being presented to you.
So like the trap shooting, Eileen, is that, that was approved earlier, that is in the budget then for next year?
Yep.
Okay.
Another thing that's in this budget too that I thought was a really great idea that Superintendent Feynman and all the administrators had was to make sure that the student supplies were taken care of. Just with the economic times and with maybe some of our families having some hardships, they're not going to have to go out and risk their safety to do back to school shopping. All of the school supplies for the children have been included in the budget.
I would like to add one thing that may help you a little bit is we're not necessarily leaving the excess dollars from the tax cap compared to the 1.79 being proposed. The law allows you to do what's called a carryover. And even though we may not truly benefit from that full 50-some thousand dollars, my rough calculation is you would be able to carry over about $45,000 of that for next year.
Is there any risk that the governor would eliminate those carryovers, Dave?
Well, I suppose there's always a risk, but that is current law. So legislatures would have to change that law in order to change that calculation.
Okay.
And David, or Mandy, either one, the 1.79, that dollar amount is bringing last year's carryover with it, so we can do it too, correct?
Well, it's part of the calculation.
Okay.
And then based on, and I'm trying to keep it simplified because it's a 13-page calculation, seriously. So yes, it becomes the initial part of the calculation, that carryover. What benefited us for carryover for next year potentially is we were allowed to use what was called BOCES, capital exclusions, that help add to our tax cap availability or increase in that. So that was $25,000 that we will carry over also into next year. So yes, it does start in the calculation, but it's kind of sifts through. But this year we also added that capital exclusion in there. So the increase total was, as Mandy said, $50-some thousand. And again, we'll be able to probably carry over almost 90% or so of that for next year.
And the other thing too, to keep in mind while you're thinking about this is that, when we met with the other business officials that are part of our GV BOCES group, we talked about what everyone was going out with, and some are going out at 0, and the majority of them are going out with the 1.7, 1.8, 1.99. Nobody's hitting the magic number, and nobody's going out really above that in our region. And so we just felt like maybe the stakeholders are going to take a look at the neighboring school districts and see that, they're going out about the same as us. And so we felt like that was a comfortable number. Then we just kind of wanted to fit in at the same time, not be an outlier.
Are all the other districts in our GV BOCES, and I don't know how the right way to say this is, are they all equally or similarly dependent on the state aid dollars, all those that are listed here, even the highest that's at 61.3% difference. Are we all depending on state aid relatively equally? Or some
I'm not sure. Some of them, yes, and some of them, no. So for some of them, that percentage rate equals more money.
Mhm.
But there are quite a few of them that are, heavily state aid dependent.
I'd
From-
say, Rich, probably 3/4 of the districts are in the same area, that same range that we are in for aid dependency. And again, that's a rough estimate. You probably have maybe 1/4 of them that do not have as high a percentage of state aid supporting their budget. But there's a great majority of them that are in the same ballpark that we are in for state aid.
Okay.
And I'll just say that knowing that it's only $55,000, we're going to get up by, if we went all the way to the max of 2.6.
Yeah.
Probably not worth the publicity.
Yeah.
I would like to have the 55,000. So next year we still had the 55,000, but I would agree it's probably not worth the publicity. It's one of those things. It's kind of like using reserves. You can only do that for so long before eventually it catches up. Well, it's the same thing, and not going to the voters with a higher tax. Sooner or later you end up having to pay the piper, or the students will, one or the other. So, but at $55,000, I would agree this year with everything that's gone on, that it's just not worth the bad publicity.
And I think one of the things that we should talk about doing, Phil, is, or I should say for the board, I think we should do we need to do a better job of really communicating what it means to vote on the budget. I don't think there's a great understanding on the community's part as to what it is that they're truly voting on. And, I think if people had more of that understanding, or, what does the tax cap truly mean? It's such a misnomer to say that the tax cap is 2%. Because people think that you can't go above 2%, when in fact you could go to 2.6. And so, when they see that you've gone above the 2%, they just don't understand what that 13-page calculation is, and how you arrived at that number. So, that may be something that we talk and work on as a board and as an administrative group on, doing more, I guess maybe more community outreach or more community PD on what the budget truly means and what it is, how the tax cap is calculated, and those kinds of things. I think that would help us, to be honest with you.
I definitely think if we put it out there that this year, based on the calculations that we would do, we could have been at 2.6, but we went at 1.79. I think that's well worth putting in there somewhere. Will they care about the calculations? Probably not, but at least understand that this is where we were allowed to go. We chose to go at the 1.79.
Good point. Mandy, is there a library component to the budget that's not listed here?
There is. See if I have that with me. I do. There is a proposed library levy. The 1920 library budget for Wayland Free Library has a proposed increase of $3,661. The Cohocton Public Library has a proposed increase of $5,000. The E.J. Cottrell Memorial has a proposed increase of $2,000. And the combined library levy in the school district comes to $10,661. Those are the increases.
Okay.
The total dollar amount for all of those combined makes their total budget $339.
And Eileen, I think that might be, you know, obviously we understand that's reimbursable, but I think that might be another area of education as well that we need to make sure that that's out there, because people see those numbers and they still don't understand that it doesn't really come out of our budget.
Right.
Point.
Mandy, I looked at that, but what was the total percentage increase? Do you remember if all three of them combined?
I don't have that, but I can figure it out.
That was more of a curiosity question. I think I did it, but I don't remember.
Do you know why Cohocton's $10,000 higher than everybody else? They got some project or something going on?
Can't help you out on that.
Libraries are 2.95% increase.
Yep.
I don't know, again. And there's no change to our equipment. Our bus replacement schedule is still intact. And whatever else we had on there earlier, nothing has changed on that.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
So Eileen, based on the other information that you shared today, this budget, even though we all just went through it, is still not cast in stone yet, correct?
That's, well, the expenditures, the amount of money that you're looking to spend for next year,
That's cast in stone, but the actual income side of it is not yet.
correct. So depending upon what the amount of decrease in aid that we receive, we will have to look at other sources of revenue to offset any of that decrease in the aid. And you know, that's where you would start looking at staffing issues, you know, staffing reductions to make up that money from the decrease in the.
And that's separate from the 20% they're talking about too.
Well, I do have a little more information to share on that. So last Friday, and if you just bear with me a second, I have my notes here somewhere. Last Friday, the bad news or the frustrating news is that they did not come out with any budget numbers from the governor. He did not indicate to us that we were going to receive X amount of decrease in aid. So that's kind of the frustrating part of it. But the positive aspect of it is that he doesn't want to make cuts right now. He wants to give the federal government the opportunity, as he says, to do their job. And he said people should never underestimate a politician's need for self-survival. He said it would be crippling for federal folks to come back to their district and, try and explain why they provided all this funding for corporate organizations when they didn't support their police departments, their fire departments, their public school systems. So, there's a little, I guess, if you will, that the cuts may not be catastrophic as we once thought. Not that there won't be any, but he is sensing or believes that there will be some type of federal funding that comes from the federal government to help offset some of those decreases. But we're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
Okay. Any other questions on the budget presentation? Okay. Eileen, we'll move on to your report.
All right, just a couple of things. Actually, I'm going to ask, I wanted to provide the board with a little bit of an update on the progress of the capital project. And I asked David if he would step in and just share a little bit where we're at with the capital improvement project.
So as you've seen as you drive by, the basic structure of the auditorium is complete. We are about half done with the actual brick for the outside portion of that. So most of the work has been taking place on the inside of the auditorium, which unfortunately you don't get a chance to really see. So the concrete, if you recall, we're doing a black concrete that has been poured on the second level. Think of the balcony stairs, the control rooms up there. So that is complete and is being protected. We have a special cover that goes over that so it doesn't get marred. The framing for the control room and sound panels are going up on the side walls. We have moved to adding a second shift of workers to kind of help reduce the congestion. When everybody's on the outside, there's plenty of room. When you put 5 different contractors on the inside, things get a little tight. So we've moved a couple of those to the second shift, and that seems to be working out. The drywall on the ceiling is up and finishing is going on. We initially, when it was built, there was a temporary roof over the stage area, and that had to do with structure when they were building and to get different types of mechanicals up in the roof. Those have been done, so the permanent roof over the stage is now also completed. You may have noticed they set what was called the rooftop unit. This is the HVAC unit, weighed about 12,000 pounds. That was set up there on the roof a couple of days ago. We're still on schedule for our completion date of approximately October 1st. We still are running into some labor shortages, and that seems to be getting a little better, but not to where we would hope to be. The work on the team room has resumed. That was when labor shortage became an issue during the winter months. Workers were shifted to the auditorium, and now that we have a couple more workers back, we do have work now continuing and hopefully finishing up that team room here in the next month. Other than that, we're still going pretty good, I think. There's no major issues other than, again, the labor shortage part of it, but we're on schedule to be done October 1st. Any questions on that?
Okay. Eileen, do you have anything further?
Yep, just a couple quick things. So I held the weekly district-wide faculty meeting earlier today. I had forwarded you the slides that were used. Certainly it's hard to read the slides when you don't have a context for the conversation. So if you have questions about anything that was sent to you, certainly let me know. Just a reminder that we are doubling our meal deliveries on this Friday due to the fact that there is the Memorial Day weekend on Monday. So we're not delivering on Monday, Memorial Day. So Friday, we will deliver meals for Friday and Saturday and Monday and Tuesday. So approximately over 3,000 meals will be delivered on Friday. Mel has put it on the website, and I am working on sending out a memo to families just as a reminder to that they'll be double on Friday and not anything on Monday. And just a couple other things. We send out a weekly Wednesday wellness check, and gives faculty and staff an opportunity to kind of check in with us and let us know how they're doing, or what questions they may be having. The questions still seem to be surrounding decisions for the end of the year. And the hard part is, I told them today that if I were forced to have to make a decision today, everything that we would be doing would be done virtually. That certainly is not what what my hope is or what I want to do. And so we're trying to wait it out as long as we can to see if we can get some more flexibility with the CDC and the Department of Health. So although it's difficult not to have a definitive decision, we're just trying to wait to see as long as we can to hopefully honor our seniors to the best of our ability. So that's still a kind of an outlying question that folks have out there. And then they also received yesterday a schedule to enter their building or their classrooms. And again, we're going to do that in phases. So teachers and support staff are coming in tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, and they're going to be working on packing up student belongings that they may have in their classroom. They're also going to take home any of their own personal belongings that they left in the classroom, the teachers, the faculty. And then the week of March 28th and 29th, we are going to get messaging out to our families that they can come in and pick up the student belongings that are still here. It is going to be on a graduated schedule based upon grade level for days and times to obviously try and comply with the social distancing requirements and not having a multitude of people in a building at the same time. And that is going to be communicated in that same memo that's going to go out to families, hopefully by tomorrow. And I think that's it. That's all that I have.
Okay.
Eileen, with that student pickup stuff, I have a personal question because my child apparently sold some stuff for some fundraiser that's in the library, and she hasn't been able to access that stuff.
Yes.
And that would be also available at that time?
Yes. So, so Josie and I have been emailing back and forth about that for a couple of weeks, and I've not had that specific conversation with her today, but I wrote it on my notes to make sure that was part of the pickup that we do for the kids next week as well. So yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Eileen,
Yeah.
in your notes today, you have decision about the end of the year, and then the last statement is there are local decisions that are being made that we have very little input on. What do you mean by that?
So there was some discussion that certain faculty and staff members were saying that we don't have any say in any of the decisions that are, and it simply was to say there are decisions that are happening that even we as the administrative team, we have very little say on right at the moment right now as well. So it's not just
Gotcha. Okay.
not just at the faculty and staff level, it's at the administrative level too, that we just they at our superintendent's meeting on spoke with the House of Delegates in Albany, and they said if you are planning a live graduation event at this point in time, stop. And so, again, does that mean that we're not going to look at that as a possibility, depending on how things happen with the phases? But that's just an example of that's something that that we don't have any control over right now. So it's not just at that teacher level.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Eileen? Thanks, Eileen. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. We'll need a motion and a second to approve the May 11th, 2020 board meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next is adopt the 2020-21 annual budget and election propositions. That is on page 14 of the agenda. The proposition number 1, I don't know, Eileen, do these need to be read or?
David, do they need to be individually read?
I think it wouldn't hurt to do that.
Okay. So proposition number 1, resolve the Board of Education of the Wayland-Cohocton Central School District is hereby authorized and directed to expend an amount not to exceed $32,630,300 for the 2020-21 school year and to levy the necessary tax for the support of the said budget. To also approve the expenditure from the Vehicle and Equipment Reserve Fund not to exceed $550,000 for the purchase of 3 66 passenger school buses and 2 30 passenger school buses, 1 handicap and 1 gator, and 2 drop salt spreaders. Proposition number 2, public library. Resolve the Board of Education of Wayland-Cohocton Central School District is authorized and directed to increase the special tax levy for the support of the Wayland Free Library, the Cohocton Public Library, and the E.J. Cottrell Memorial Library in the following amounts. Wayland Free Library, total of $158,994. Cohocton Public Library, total of $163,000. E.J. Cottrell Memorial Library, $50,645. The present combined library levy in the school district, $372,639. Please vote to fill 2 vacancies on the Board of Education. The candidate receiving the highest number of votes shall be elected to a 5-year term created by the expiration of the term of an incumbent board member commencing on July 1, 2020 and expiring on June 30th, 2025. Receiving the second highest number of votes shall be elected to fill the remainder of the term created by the resignation of a prior board member commencing after the election and expiring on June 30, 2021. Those candidates are Christopher M. Chikora, Michael J. Hyman, and Kelly Schechter. Are there any questions? There's no questions. I need a motion and a second to adopt 2020-21 annual budget and election propositions.
I'll make the
I'll make the
motion.
motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Aye. No opposed. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone, for your work on that. We'll move on to the adoption of the 2021 instructional calendar. I don't believe there were any changes from the last view of that, correct, Eileen?
Correct.
Are there any questions?
No.
No.
No questions. I need a motion and a second to approve the adoption of the 2020-2021 instructional calendar.
I'll make the motion.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion. Moving on to the consensus agenda. I'd love to take a moment to look at the items included in your packet on the consensus agenda. Are there any questions? No questions. I need a motion and a second to approve the items on the consensus agenda.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. From a closing remarks standpoint, I would like to thank everyone that's been working very hard on the budget. I certainly understand it's not been an easy process, nor will it continue to be an easy process as we learn more about what the state's going to do and ultimately what the federal government may do to help communities like ours that are in the state they're in right now. Eileen, do you have anything further you'd like to offer?
Not at this time.
Okay. So upcoming events, we have a meeting next Tuesday, May 26th, 2020. That'll be the Board of Education meeting and the budget hearing. And if there are no further questions or any community input, I need a motion and a second to adjourn into executive session to discuss specific personnel matters.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Eileen, how do we had talked about different methods to do this. I think we need to end the recording. And were you going to, does everyone log off and then log back in?
Yes, I will send you a new link to log in.
Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for attending.
Everybody have a good week.